Hey guys, and welcome back to Total Auto Rebuilds, and first of many Mechanical 101s. So a few people requested that we do some basic series of videos on how to do general maintenance on most vehicles. So this one, we're going to be concentrating on the C-Class behind me and doing the oil and filter change. So one of the things we need to do is remove or loosen this oil filter holder out of the housing here. Now there's a number of different tools we could use to do that. Obviously we've got the More Grip style filter wrench, which obviously we can just clip around and twist. We can't use that on this occasion because of that on the power steering reservoir is completely in the way. Whether that's deliberate or not, I'll leave it up to you. We've also got the band type oil filter remover. Now that tightens around the oil filter and twists to undo it. And we've got a small one of them, and I've also got a larger one for the bigger filters with easier access. Then thirdly, we have an oil filter removal tool set. Now this is for oil filters that have got a socket bit on top of it, or a socket kind of lump if you like on top of the filter housing itself, and ordinarily then one of these sockets would go over that and twist it off, but we haven't got that on this occasion. So this uses a different type of oil filter removal tool. This is quite common across the Mercedes range. So this is a, I believe, 78mm tool, this one, whether it's stamped with it on or not. I think it was 78mm, if not I'll correct it in the video. But in essence what this does is it sits over the top of the actual oil filter housing, and you put your 3/8 ratchet in it and you can back it off and loosen it off. Now I always personally just make sure that we can just undo that oil filter first and just do it back hand tight, because I've had a few issues where I've had seized filters in the past and I think if you look back to my Fiesta video, that had an issue with the seized filter, and I actually changed the oil and then changed the filter the next day once I've got the right tool to get it off. So lessons learned, I always check the filters loose to start off with. So we're going to loosen this filter off, tighten it back up hand tight before we get the car up on the ramps and drop the oil. So the point to note here, guys, is if you've got a top mount filter, you need to release the pressure off it before you drop that sump plug out. If you've got a bottom mounted filter on the bottom of the engine, don't do that now. You do that after you've emptied the oil. Okay, so we've got our ratchet and extension into that. So let's just see if we can get a bit of a turn on that. So I mean about it being tight, like I can't do it one-handed. That's meant to be 25 Newton meters, which I should easily be able to undo one-handed. But anyway, let me, off camera, just loosen that off. So that actually took some real two-handed force to get that to crack open. So now what we're going to do is just tighten that comfortably back up so it seals. So I know that I can get that off once I've got the car jacked up. With my dodgy ratchet, which I've snapped the drive on, so I've got to take that back to Halfords and get that changed. It's got lifetime warranty, luckily. So we snug that back up by hand. And we know we'll leave that on in situ to get the car up on the ramps, get the under trays dropped, and we'll look at dropping the oil. Okay, so we've got the car up on the ramps with blocks behind the wheels and the handbrake on. So now we're going to get some mats on the floor and we'll get to dropping the under trays and see what we've got to work with. So before we crack the sump nut off underneath, we're just going to open the filler cap. You can see how hot the oil is there, look. Okay, probably a little bit hotter than what we want it. I mean, usually do it when the engine's really between 50 and kind of 70 degrees. That usually sees the oil about right, but you have to be careful with this one. Pull the dipstick out, again, so we get no locks. And then we can start to loosen the oil filter off a bit, so there's no kind of airlock in the system that's going to hold the oil. It's all going to flow out as soon as we release the sump plug. Right guys, here we are back under the car. So there's obviously 3 engine trays on a Mercedes. There's the very front skid plate, which we don't need to remove. That can stay where it is. There's the secondary plate here. Now that you can just flop down, but for ease I'm going to remove that. And it's the third tray at the back. that can come down. We'll leave the one bolt in and just push it back to the side out of the way. Makes life a little easier. So these are all 8mm bolts under here. So there's first one. Second. Third. Fourth. And if we get under, the next ones are here. And here. So that's 6 bolts for that front tray. Put them all there, out of the way. Slide back under there. And then there's another bolt tucked up under here. And one exactly the same on the opposite side. Okay. Now, awkwardly, there is a bolt in here, right in the recess. There we go. That will allow that tray to flop. Now, if I get in from the side and undo that one, the tray then should pivot round completely out of the way and allow me to get into over here, which is where I need to get into to drop the sump plug. So this bit I love, not. Hot oil, great. 13mm socket on the ratchet ready to go. We're going to release that sump nut, and we've got our catch can ready. I'm going to go with the bigger one out the back because I think that's going to get filled up, and we'll go from there. Let's get the other one ready just in case we need to swap them over. Here goes nothing. God, that was tight. And get the extension bar. Give my hands a little bit of fighting chance of not getting burnt. There we go. quite clean for me. I'm not usually that clean. It's nice and black. Well used. And you always want to try and do this when it's warm, so that the oil flows a little better. Well, I'm glad I went for the bigger tub, so the other tub would have been filled. Okay. I'm going to carefully swap one container for the other. That. I'm going to move this oil out of the way, just squeeze it carefully. So we have here a new sump plug and washer and crush washer. Here's an old sump plug, and they are completely different. So looks like the boys at Car User again have got it wrong, but there's no leaks from that washer, so we're going to reseal it with that. Just going to give it a clean with some brake clean and get it put back in. That's annoying. Must be multiple sumps for this model. They're usually bang on, to be fair. Right, got some brake clean treatment. Right, move. Lovely. Brake clean is one of the best things you'll get for clean off oil. So that washer's not in too bad shape, to be honest, although it's crushed, but let's get it put back in and see how we fare. Torque spec on that one is 30 Newton meters. It's actually on the bottom of the sump, but to be honest, pinch tight is usually good enough. We'll check that. Okay, so we've got a new sump plug back in with crush washer. That's torqued up to 30 Newton meters, the spec. We're all done down here. Back up top now. So that's our oil filter pulled off. We've got replacement filter to go in and 3 replacement seals that we need to do. There'll be a seal here that needs to come off. There'll be another seal here, and then there'll be the final seal, which is this yellow one here that we need to replace. And obviously we'll pull the filter out, put the new one in as part of the process. Right, I've now replaced the filter and the seals. They've all been renewed. Time to get it back in, tightened up, and get the oil in. So put the oil filter housing back together. That needs to now go to 25 Newton meters worth of torque. We'll get that done. And then we need 6.5 litres of the correct oil, which I've got and I'll go and get now. And we need to top it up into there and obviously push the dipstick back down. Now the correct oil for this OM651 C220 diesel is a 5W30 fully synthetic that meets all the manufacturer's codes 229.52, 229.51, 229.31, 226.5. They're all the manufacturer's standards upon which Mercedes base their oil. So if you go to your local motor factors, give them your registration, they will tell me how much oil and what grade to buy. This is Car User, so they've given me a Napa brand. So I think it was about 60 quid for 10 litres. So we need 6.5, so we'll get the 5 in and then we'll measure out the other 1.5 litres, get everything buttoned back down, get it off the ramp and get it run up to temperature. So I've just chugged the first 5 litres into there and I've measured out the extra 1.5 litres left to fill. Now I'm measuring the dipstick, and the dipstick is reading full, but you've got to remember the car's on a slant, right? It's tipped back using the ramps. See there, look. So what I'm going to do, rather than start it, is I'm going to put the oil cap back on and I'm going to drop the handbrake off, drop the car back off the ramps, get it onto flat ground, and then recheck the oil and top it up, because we don't know how much residual oil is left in the engine. So it's always worth the last litre or so just checking it with the dipstick to make sure we don't overfill it, because that will cause more harm than good. Okay, so we got it to top of the dipstick, or where I think it's top of the dipstick. It's hard to tell with the oil, but that's left us with about a litre. So we've put just over 5.5 litres in, and it holds 6.5. So what I want to do is get the oil circulating. So I've got the engine running, not under any load obviously. Just going to let it sit here and idle. Check that we haven't got any errors on the dash. Turn it off for a minute, let all the oil settle, probably give it 10-15 minutes, recheck the oil and top it up as necessary. So I've let it settle, I've ran it for a bit again, let it settle again, and if we take a look at the dipstick, we're reading just under maximum. So I'm happy with that. That leaves us about 0.4 of a litre left over. So we'll run it for the next few days, see how she runs, and then check the oil again and top it off if needs be. So there we have it, she's all back together. So I hope you found that useful. Points to note is just make sure you've got the right tools. Make sure you're prepared, you've got the oil, the filter, everything's the right parts. Make sure that obviously you can remove the filter before you drop the oil. Especially if it's a top mount, because they can be extra difficult and the seals tend to go quite dry on them and tend to stick. Complexity wise, I'd give it a 3 out of 10. It's not hard to do. Just follow the instructions. Obviously some cars are going to vary, some cars can have a filter on top like mine, some can have a filter underneath. You'll be able to do it, just take your time. And whatever you do, the only thing you can do wrong is don't start the car without any oil in. Hope you found it really useful. Let me know, do you like these videos, don't you like these videos? Comments below. Don't forget to like, obviously subscribe, and hit that bell icon, because that tells you whenever new videos are dropping out. So thanks guys, catch you on the next one.